guys. I am going to have today on Urban Harvest. His first name is Dwayne, and I resent him the link, so hopefully he'll be joining me in a few minutes. So I was hanging out with the Tuber Chat family this morning and was trying to make some new friends and also adding some to the watch later list that were in there so I could stay connected with those people. And not doing too much this morning, feeding the chickens and taking a shower. That's about it. Haven't been too productive yet today. I wrote out some questions for Dwayne, and over the weekend we had kind of like a windstorm or whatever, and it took down about 75% of my sunflowers. And my sunflowers were about like 10 inches tall. 10 feet tall. So anyway, that happened Friday night, I think it was. So Saturday, I just asked hubby to cut down the ones that were laying down and went out there, and it was like, whoa, there was a lot of them. So I drug the broken sunflowers to the back of the yard because wherever they lay is where they're going to pop up next year. So I'll put them in the back of the yard where I wanted them to pop up for next year. So that way it'll be really pretty at the very back of the yard in the fenced area. There'll be a nice line of sunflowers there. Welcome in, Milk and Honey Heritage Farms. So I was very sad about the sunflowers going down, but I do have them in 3 other places in the yard. And also, did you get the link I sent, Urban Harvest? Dwayne, did you get the link? Or do I need to try to put it in the chat? Let me know. So, you know, I also, what I was going to say is that I'm glad that the sunflowers are gone because underneath them were all my vining plants like cantaloupe, pumpkin, melons, watermelon, all that stuff. And so it's a good idea that the sunflowers are gone. It says, I don't see you in the backstage, Dwayne. That's weird. Did I send you the link to the wrong video? Very strange. Well, I'm just going to put it right here. I guess click out of that and I'll just put one in the chat. Nope. That's very strange. So anyway, now they won't be shading my plants from Coupon Gail. Yeah, that was my other channel, Coupon Gail. So that is right. But I don't know if I sent it to you from a different live chat or something. I don't know. I'm not sure why I don't see you. Not too sure. But I'm going to try to put the link right here and you can click on this one. Just make sure your volume's down so you don't make the echoey sound. Let's see. Milk and Honey, if you have a community chat, will you share it out? Share the live out for me? Ever since I got my new laptop, I've been struggling with putting the link in. I don't know why. I'm doing the click to bring up the button to paste it, but it's not working for me. It's Monday morning. It's like Monday morning as if you were really working a job where you screw stuff up. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to send you the link again on your email. I'm going to send you a new link. We'll see if maybe I accidentally went into the wrong live stream to send you a link. You know, like the one I had set up for yesterday, but I didn't do it because I was doing a live today. Because I was like, I don't need to do 2 lives in a row. Since I did one today, I didn't need to do one yesterday. Okay, so I resent you the link. How do I do that? Underneath the video or the live stream, it says share and it has a little arrow. You'll click on that and put it on your community tab. I don't know if I explained that very well.
All right, how's everybody doing?
Good. Hello, Kermage in Alaska.
How's everybody doing?
Good. Hello. Oh, I like your background.
I appreciate it. Hey, how's it going, Milk and Honey Heritage Farms?
Oh, I like your background. You got a little. Did when you clicked on that link, was your volume up or down?
It looked like it was up, but why is it kind of low?
If you turn your volume down and click on the link, it won't have that little echo thing in the background.
That better? I think it's echoing because I have my iPad playing it, so I can check it out.
Oh yeah, probably that's it. Say something again.
Say something again.
Okay, there you go.
All right.
You're good. You got it. So it's funny because when I look at your background, it almost looks like your name is carved in a spider web, sort of. Like it's just hanging in the air. That's really neat looking.
Yeah, I used a fishing line to hang it up there.
That's neat.
Appreciate it.
That's cool. So is that an actual structure or is that something you did in the computer?
No, that's actually my DIY trellis that I use from a cattle panel. I put the trellis over the box, so all my peas and everything's going to be going up the trellis.
Oh, that's neat.
And then I put the name up there just to kind of thought it'd be a cool idea. Y'all can kind of see it.
That looks cool. I just saw it move just now.
Yeah, so that just kind of came to me last minute.
Yeah, that's cool. I like it. That's neat looking. Looks like you're having a cloudy day there.
Yeah, we a little bit overcast. I'll take it because I know here in a couple weeks, man, it's gonna get hot as all get out.
Oh, I know, 90s and then into the triple digits.
90s. They say Texas, we just preheating right now.
Oh, yeah, we are. I'm nervous. My husband got me like one shade cloth, and I'm like, I don't know what is the most detrimental that I would need to put it on. I know it doesn't need to be on my tomatoes because actually my tomatoes are planted by the side of the house on the brick wall, which I think is why they grow slower because they're shaded on one side. But I've had them grow really well there, so I went ahead and left them and planted them there. This is my third year to plant them there.
Man, I just picked up a second shade cloth myself because since we moved here, we've been here about 10 years. And when I first moved here, man, I couldn't grow nothing. I mean, I couldn't grow dandelions. And then I finally, built the raised box and it's got a little bit better. And everything would grow, but then summer would hit, it would all burn up. And then a friend of mine said, well, just put a shade cloth on it. And it just had one of those duh moments. So I put the shade cloth over it last couple of seasons. And man, I mean, everything was doing great. I'm getting collards and cabbage all the way throughout the summer. So I picked up another shade cloth for my second box right now. But yeah. Here in this zone, you got to have some shade cloth.
Are you in 8A as well?
Yes, I'm in 8A. Okay. So, and right now, my backyard, I don't have no trees or nothing. So and my backyard faces east. So from morning all the way up to about 1 o'clock, it's just straight up pure beaming desert heat in the backyard. No relief, no nothing. So, tomatoes do okay, but everything else is it's a wrap.
What else? What do you think would need the shade cloth the most? If I only had one and I was going to use it on one thing, what would you recommend?
So I would use it on anything that's like a brassica. So like cabbage, you got lettuce, anything like that. I would put it on. Your tomatoes probably would survive. Peppers would survive. Squash and cucumbers, they might survive. But anything that you have that's like a brassica, definitely, because they don't like the heat. So spinach, lettuce, broccoli, cauliflower, they do not like that heat.
Yeah, my lettuce has been trying to bolt for a long time.
Yes.
I finally stopped fighting with it and let it start doing, I kept cutting it off. And I was like, oh, I'm so tired of this. I finally just let it go. Same thing with the collard greens. They kept me to seed and I finally just harvested all of it, made a batch of collard greens. I did my best. It was my first time to cook them.
Yeah,
Last year, I just ate them raw. This year, like in a salad. This year, I actually looked up the recipe and cooked them. So,
yeah. So I got a really good. I think I've done a short on it before, but I got a really good collard green recipe.
oh, do you?
It's kind of a healthier. It's kind of a healthier take on the traditional collard greens. So basically, I put them in my Instapot. I put a little bit of chicken broth in there with them, and diced tomatoes, onions, peppers, garlic, and chicken sausage, and
Mm.
it's kind of and it turns out really good.
Yeah, I noticed that they do put a lot of fat in them in the recipes. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, they do, but we substitute either chicken sausage or turkey sausage, or if you really want a really good flavor, smoked turkey leg.
Yeah, I
For a
think
really
all
good.
I had was a ham bone, so I ended up putting a ham bone in mine because I had
Yeah,
one in that left in the freezer from I think it was like Easter or Christmas or something. So
yeah.
that's what I had. So that day, I just put that in it, and I don't know. I followed somebody's recipe. All the things that I had in my pantry, I just used what I had that day. I didn't make it a video or anything. Hello, Ark Wildman Survival. How are you? And
Hey,
they
hey, life on a budget.
good. I think they came out pretty good, but I do actually like them raw too. If you put them in a salad and you cut them kind of small, really doesn't. To me, it just tastes like a lettuce, kind of like a
Probably tastes like kale.
yeah, tastes like a lettuce or a kale. Yeah, definitely. Hello, Triple Diamond Collectibles. How are you? Just made friends with them in Tuber Chat just a few minutes ago, and there they are. Thank you
Nice.
so
Hey,
much.
Triple Diamond Collectibles.
So if anybody has a community tab, if you'll share it, and thank you, Milk and Honey Heritage Farm for trying. And they
I
said
might just share it right now.
they don't have their community tab yet. So
Okay, give me a second. I'm gonna share it out real quick.
okay, I'll probably get some people watching the replay too because usually when we're talking about gardening, I get quite a few replays on it. But no, this is not when I usually go live, so people are they're confused.
Okay, I just put it on a community post.
Thank you much. And I just shared it a little while ago myself again. So I wrote down some questions for you.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Alrighty, I'm with you.
You ready? You ready? Okay.
Yes.
How long have you been gardening?
Ooh, that's a good question. How long have I been gardening? Officially, I would say 14 years. Hold on 1 second. I would say maybe, yeah, about 14 years. So I first started gardening. It was purely accidental. A tree had fell in our backyard and it was dead as all get out. And so we yanked it up the tree, ripped it out the ground. Fun story on how that tree out the ground. Let me know if you guys want to hear that story. But ripped the tree out the ground and I had this big gaping hole in my backyard. And I'm like, man, I'm not going to try to, make the grass look pretty and stuff. So someone suggested just build a garden around it. So I put some edging around it, built the box around it, and filled it with soil, topsoil, and I just threw some seeds. I had no idea what I was doing. I literally just threw some seeds in there, and just stuff started popping up. And it was the best garden ever. I'm still trying to chase that high because that decomposing tree had really made that soil just naturally nutrient rich, and anything I put in that soil would just immediately jump up and overtake.
It was like that hugelkultur thing.
Yes, by accident.
That's cool. Well, see, my very first garden was the best garden ever, too, because at the time I was living in Abilene, Texas. My dad had, I was at work. I told him I wanted to do my first garden. My dad was so excited to hear I wanted to do gardening that while I was at work, he came over to my house and he tilled the area where I wanted it. And what it was I had a really big backyard, but there was a fenced area where a dog had been before me. So all that dog manure was in that area. which I don't really know what they say about dog manure. I think it's not as bad as cat manure. But anyway, that year it rained a lot. So I had huge tomato plants, huge plants, squash. I was picking every other day. I was having to give it away. I might have even planted too much. I don't know, but it was a small area, and I had small baby pumpkins that year. And I remember they grew through the fence to the neighbor's yard, and the people that were my neighbors at the time, they had kids. And I told them, well, if it grows over there, just pick them for your kids or whatever, and y'all could do a project or put them on your porch or whatever. So
nice.
And that was a really good garden. And I think I did that for a few years, and then I might have taken a few years off. And when I got here to Breckenridge, I started back with the gardening. So, but I've learned a lot on YouTube. I think I kind of stayed in my comfort zone until I entered that big global gardening thing called Shed Wars. I'm not in it this year, but I entered that 3 years ago.
That sounds interesting. What's it called again?
Well, it was called Shed Wars, but now it's called Global Gardening Community something or other.
Huh.
And there's quite a few channels in it, but I learned a lot of stuff from that, and also watching YouTube videos.
Right.
The people giving off. I stayed in my little comfort zone, and now I've grown all kinds of more exotic things. I stayed, with just your zucchini, tomatoes, and peppers. And then later started up with more, more fancy type things. It was like just your basic beefsteak tomato. Now I have like 12 varieties of tomatoes planted.
Nice.
Crazy. What is your favorite thing to grow in your garden?
My favorite thing to grow? That's a good question. I got a lot of favorite things. I had to say, can't go wrong with tomatoes.
Yeah.
I say tomatoes.
Squash, then tomatoes, probably.
And for me, it'd be tomatoes and bell peppers.
Bell peppers, yeah. Bell peppers are a little bit hard. I've gotten some before. They're usually pretty small.
Yeah.
But I did try to put bone meal in them. They're growing really, really slow. I just have a little bit of those planted. I actually have 2 pepper beds because I haven't done that great with peppers. So I have 2 different beds. So I'm hoping whichever place they grow out better at this year, I'm going to plant them back in that same spot next year. So we'll see which area they do better at.
I usually grow the varieties that are kind of like this little the small sweet ones. I usually grow those varieties. So they're small anyway, so I don't really grow the big green ones. I do the small sweet peppers.
Yeah, I have jalapenos and cayennes and banana peppers, bell peppers, and a few other ones I wanted to try that other people have sent me, just to do this and that. And they were nice and sectioned off, but they were coming up so slow. I started putting more seed in to make sure I'd get some. So now I don't know what anything is.
Yeah.
Because I was getting impatient, so I just kept throwing seed in there, and I'm like, something's eventually going to pop up. So I'm just
like me.
Yeah. So yeah, I had kind of a bad gardening year last year because everything looked really good, and then we had a really bad hail, and it damaged a lot of stuff. Well, I got so upset I stopped watering it. I stopped going out there. I didn't want to go out in the yard, but I had to go out there and feed the chickens. I wouldn't even look at it. I was so mad. And I told myself, quit being a baby. If it doesn't come up, just replant. Because, you can still plant in June and July in Texas.
Yes.
Still get harvest before. So I don't know why I was being such a big baby. So something happened the other day. We had the really bad wind. Well, it knocked over my 10-foot tall sunflowers, and about 75% of them, my husband had to cut them down for me because they were laying over, and I didn't have the heart to do it. I said, would you cut them down? I went out and I was like, oh my gosh, it was more than I thought.
The sunflowers got up to 10 feet tall?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. I planted some sunflowers. I didn't realize they got that tall until someone told me. I was like, wow, that's pretty tall.
Yeah, there's actually some about to touch the power line in the backyard.
Wow.
Yeah, and we have a 6-foot tall fence, and they're quite a ways over that. Well, I still have some left. I went ahead and I drug them.
What variety?
Well, these particular ones, They're Blackwell sunflower seeds like you would feed to chickens. And basically, when I composted the manure back there in that area, because I was going to grow like my vining type things, well, they came up. And so they were all volunteers. I actually didn't plant any of them. They all came up from the manure. So that, and so I still have some left, and I have them in a few different places, but that was the section that was the tallest. It was a little bit of a blessing though, because underneath that was like all my cantaloupe and watermelon, honeydew and pumpkins and all that vining type stuff I put in the back of the yard. I call it the wild garden, but it's kind of a round section. What I do is I plant it, or I leave the pumpkins and let them die there, or the gourds that I have from last year, I let them all die and I spread them out in there. And I just let them vine out into the back of the yard because they have all that space back there.
Okay.
Dandelion jelly. I probably don't have enough dandelion jelly. I don't have enough dandelion in my yard for jelly.
I've never heard of dandelion jelly. I know you can make tea out of dandelions. But
sunflower jelly. I took all the sunflowers to the back of the fence so that next year they'll come up there. And so next year I'm not going to let them come up in that area at all. I'm going to pull them all up because really I want that area to be for the vining plant. So that's why I drug the broken ones back there where I want them to keep them from shading all my stuff. But so it's kind of a blessing because now they can get their sun that they need to grow. Because they were probably growing slower because they were being shaded. Let's see. Is there any plants you're having a hard time growing?
Let's see. What did I have a hard time growing? I was struggling with Swiss chard. I couldn't get Swiss chard to do nothing.
Oh, yeah. I haven't gotten Swiss chard up either.
Say again?
I haven't gotten Swiss chard up either.
Yeah, but funny thing is, I finally, out of the 6 ones I grew, I got one right now I'm looking at that's actually doing really well that popped up. And I guess he was just a survivor while the rest of his kinfolk didn't make it. But Swiss chard, and let's see. I normally don't have a problem, but I'm having a problem with lettuce, and I think it's just because it's too hot right now.
Yeah, so I planted mine in January.
Yeah. See, I planted mine about March, April. It started doing good. Actually started it in cups, put it in the ground, and the temperature shot up. And ever since the temperature shot up, it's not dying. It's just stunted. It's about like this big, and it just won't get any bigger. But I put a new shade tarp over it, put drip irrigation, and now it looks like it's starting to kind of open up and come to life a little bit. So I think it was just, it was just too hot. So
I think I watched that on M.I. Gardner was talking about planting them in like January or February for our
40%, 70%.
You're kind of going in and out. Urban Harvest is in Texas as well. We're both in Texas. Are you guys having trouble hearing him too, or is it just? Uh-oh. I guess he's having a little bit of trouble. Some kind of internet. But yeah, he's in North Texas. I believe he's in the Dallas area. So we're actually pretty close to each other within about 3 hours. He's in Zone 8A, Texas as well. Yeah, he's cutting in and out. Maybe he'll click on the link again. Let's see. Let's see what I had. I'm going to answer a couple of questions on here until he comes back. I was going to ask him who inspired him to garden, so I answered the question myself. My dad actually is the reason I started gardening. I used to watch my dad in the garden, and I learned a few gardening things from him.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, I had to switch to my iPad. I don't know why, but my laptop was kind of wigging out there for a second.
Yeah, that was weird. All of a sudden, you kept going in and out like.
Yeah, well, I'm in the backyard, so the signal might be. There we go. Let me close this other one out.
Okay. He'll be back in a sec. He's just closing the other one out. Okay.
Hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah, I'm about to use the iPad. Right now, I'm just not getting a good signal with my laptop.
Yeah, it sounds good. I told him that you were in North Texas Zone 8A. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it. It's 8A where it gets hot as a firecracker.
Yep, it's going to be hot. I've already gotten a tan just from gardening and a little bit from fishing. I went fishing 2 times. Plus and I don't even spend all day out there because it's so hot. I do right after I feed the chickens, I do a little bit of weeding, or if I have any planting or anything, I do it early, right after I feed the chickens, or late in the evening, right after I do watering, because it's so hot. You can only go out for a few minutes and come back in.
Yeah, I usually like when I get off of work, so I work the overnight shift. I usually get out here early in the morning when I get off of work, and then that's it. And maybe a little bit in the evening time, because like you said, it gets hot. Yeah. I seen people buy dehydrators. So I was like, man, we don't need no dehydrator. You just set it out on the front porch and keep it full. Yes. That's your dehydrator right there.
Yeah, people were talking about. I was telling them anytime I save seed, I actually wash them. And then I'll put them on a tray or something and put them on my front porch on a chair out there and let them sit as long as it's not a real windy day, and just let my seeds dry outside like that. And so they're just like, what? And I'm like, well, it's hot here, It doesn't take that long as as you don't forget they're out there. That's a great way to do your seed, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I drop my herbal leaves. Hold on, switch that.
Go ahead.
I drop my herbal leaves like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I just sit them out there and then come back a few hours later and they're dry. They're ready to make a tea.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Did you have a family member that inspired you to do gardening?
Yeah, my pops. He was always into gardening. He was always growing because he's from the country, so he was always growing pumpkins, watermelons. He grew just about everything. So that was kind of his thing, growing stuff. And just everywhere we went, he was always sticking something in the ground. So
when we lived in the country, my dad gardened, and when we lived in the city, he gardened. Even when we lived right next to a highway, we had a yard that was fenced with the I don't know what it's called, it's where you could see through it. And my dad had a whole corner of just a flourishing garden, and people would drive by and be like, hey, and stuff, because it was right there in the middle of the city. But that's at the very last place my parents lived. It was in Abilene, but it was like a country part over by ACU, and had a really big yard. He had about an acre there, and he had a huge garden. And I think one year he did Christmas trees, and one year he did pumpkins to sell. Okay. I have giant pumpkins growing this year. I'm hoping to get some. We'll see.
Pumpkins?
Giant pumpkins, and I have regular pumpkins.
So what do you guys do with the pumpkins? You just eat the seeds, or you make pumpkin pie, or?
I didn't buy pumpkins that are specific for pie. I basically just do it. It's for me, it's a challenge, and I just put them on the front porch. Now, if I ever got enough of them, if I ever did the whole backyard and got enough of them, I could sell them. But probably I'll just have a nice fall display on my front porch, or give some to my mom or my neighbor or somebody.
Okay.
Just for fun and challenge, kind of.
I got you.
It's for a lot of people, it's just very challenging to grow pumpkins, and I just want to. I've been successful
Say
four
urban
different
gardening with Gray.
about 4 different times. Urban gardening with Gray. Welcome in.
You say you were successful about 4 different times.
About 4 different times. Yep. And I've done the little ones. I've done regular sized ones. And then I grew giant ones, but that year we had really bad flooding here. And I didn't get any that year. But so far, all 3 of my giant pumpkins are up and both of my regular pumpkins are up. So, and all the pumpkins I let die in the wild garden. I don't know if that's what they are because they volunteer because they came up from the pumpkin. They just died there and came up on their own. So they're all in a clump. So
So
I
is that
don't
what
know.
volunteer means? I always hear people talking about volunteer. So that's what it means. Is basically when you say volunteer tomatoes or volunteer pumpkins.
It's stuff you didn't plant. It came up from last year or
Okay.
it came up on its own. It's not a seed you threw in the ground. It just came up. Like I said, those sunflowers came up from the chicken manure. Also,
Wow.
sunflowers, if they're in an area, they'll drop their seed, especially if you never take everything down. They'll drop their seed and come up next year just from that.
Huh.
I have sunflowers all over the yard, so I don't know. I don't know. And it's the chickens don't. We have our yard. It's a big backyard, and we have a fence in the middle. And this half over here is the chicken side, and this half over here is the gardening side. And the side with the chickens in that back area it floods a little bit, not where the chickens are, but in the very, very
Okay.
back. So that's why I took this side of the yard because it's more sunny. Hello, there's an error for that. I'm guessing these are a couple of your friends.
Yes, they are.
Awesome.
Thanks.
I'll go check out your channels here after we're done with the live. Let's see what I have for the next question.
Okay.
Pretty much every year that you do gardening, you learn something new. What do you think that you learned this year?
Oh man, I learned a lot of new stuff this year. Let's see. I learned how to compost. This is my first year actually starting compost. I started with the in-ground compost bin, and then I bought a separate composting bin. So I'm learning how to compost and make my own soil. So that's been pretty fun.
Yeah, I've done a lot of composting in place, like at the end of the year. So like last year, after when I finally got the want to go back outside after everything was destroyed. I went outside and all those leaves had fell down from the hail. So I had the daughter bag all the leaves up. And so I had bags and bags of leaves. So I started composting I composted an area. And then when I was done, I would put the leaves on top.
Right.
That way I knew I was done with that area and I would move on to the next section. And I did watch your video about the leaves, and I did think that was really interesting. It seemed like a lot of my leaves in a lot of my areas did break down quite a bit, but some of them didn't. But I did ask hubby after I watched your video, I said, hey, next time you're outside and you're doing the lawn mowing, we have a section over there that still has some leaves. I said, can you just kind of like run over that a few times?
There you go.
And he said, yeah. So and he said he had done that because I noticed they had been breaking down over there in that area quite a bit. So anytime I didn't have any store-bought soil, I would walk over to the chicken side of the yard. There's a limb there and a bunch of leaves from that really bad hail storm. There's still a bunch of leaves over there. And I'll go over there and I'll dig underneath the leaves. And they're, that top layer before you hit the clay, because there's a lot of clay. I'll get, if the leaves look like they're broke down some, and then the layer before you hit the clay, I'll use that. And that soil has been working really well. Yeah.
And the leaves, and don't get me wrong, you can use them without breaking them down. It's just that it takes longer, and you just have to keep in mind that, depending on what you're growing, if you're growing something that requires a lot of nitrogen, it might kind of zap it. But my dad, he did a lot. He used, that was like the only fertilizer he used was leaves. But he would till them in really good with his tiller. And depending on the leaves, like if they've been sitting there a couple seasons and stuff, they might break down real easy. I got another buddy, Urban Gardner Gray over there. He said he just breaks all his leaves up in piles, and then the kids just jump around and play on them, and just breaks them down that way. So
Well, that is a thing, though. At the beginning, okay, so I do the composting and put the leaves on top. Well, when I go to start the new gardening season, hubby tills through it, and so the leaves are tilled in.
yeah,
So maybe that does work out okay that way.
yeah. I think if you till them in, I think it breaks it down faster when you till them in like that.
Yeah, I think so too. And another thing though that I did learn about leaves, and I had Jason from Green Country Agroforestry on, and he was saying that, when the leaves are laying there, like I'm explaining it the way I think I understand it, but don't quote that it's necessarily what he said. But during the winter, when the leaves are laying there and it rains on top of it, it's taking that nitrogen down into the soil.
Huh,
He was kind of saying to me. So I thought that was interesting, but I like to hear different points of view. But after I watched your video, that's when I asked hubby about that. Hey, can you go run over those leaves a few times for me? I do a lot of work in the garden, but he does the tilling and the mowing and stuff like that. So you got some bugs attacking you?
Yeah. And it was pretty cool because, and like I said, the idea just came to me. I ended up when I put the leaves on there, I had some cardboard and paper. I just threw the cardboard and paper in there and a couple heads of lettuce, and literally just composted everything, kind of helped chop everything up, break it down, because over time it will break down, but I'm kind of impatient. I wanted to break down like now. So
Yeah.
I threw a couple heads of lettuce. I had a cardboard box, broke it up into smaller pieces, and I just put it all in a pile and ran over with the lawnmower and had some really nice fine compost.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, what I did was last time he mowed the yard, he doesn't have a bag on the mower, but I took a bucket and I picked up the grass clippings and threw it in that where those leaves and stuff are over there. And I'm letting that break down and become like part of the soil that I'm going to be using next year. So I'm kind of getting that ready. And I have an actual big plastic compost thing, something hubby got from work. He works at a company that does oil filtration stuff, and they get all these weird containers. So he brought in this year, my new addition this year, a big shipping container, and it has, slats, and there's a little bit of space, so it's got plenty of drainage. Okay. And it was like, normal wood color, but it had like marker on it, where they
like a pallet, kind of like a huge pallet.
Well, it was actually shaped like a box. It was rectangle. Like a crate. Yeah, like a crate. That's it.
I think I saw that in one of your videos.
And so what I did was I had some white paint around the house, and I just painted it. I just painted it white because that's the color we had. And the top part of it, he nailed it in on one side of the old chicken coop, and I went ahead and painted it to match the chicken coop. So we used the lid as well. And I was like, are you going to get me another one for next year? He's like, I don't know. He said, but I do have something at work that I'm going to get you can use for next year. So I'm hoping he'll give me something pretty soon that I can already start getting it ready, composting it for next year. This is
that's a good idea.
My little brat, Curly Sue. What you looking at? The lights? Look, you're a movie star. All right. She doesn't know what I'm doing, so she's just going to climb up here. She has no idea. Let's see. See, I did ask you about the compost. Do you use neem oil I've never used neem oil before. Do you use it?
I use a lot of neem oil. I use neem oil, and BT is kind of my go-to for pest control. The only thing about those two is that you got to reapply them every time it rains. It's kind of one of those like once or twice a week, It doesn't really kill them per se. It just kind of deters them. But I use neem oil mixed with BT, and it helps. I mean, it's still, it still get pests and stuff, but it helps. Right now,
to look for it. I don't even really know where to buy neem oil. I hear people talking about it a lot. I use some diatomaceous earth.
Yes, that's something I use a lot of diatomaceous earth.
You got to reapply that too. That's another thing.
Yes, it is. Now,
go ahead.
Now, last year I tried nematodes, and I'm gonna do it again this year. It really helped out. It really killed a lot of the bugs. It's just like a bacterial, or virus that attacks certain pests. It's like a good bacteria that attacks only certain pests. But it also, when it attacks them and they die, they kind of release good bacteria into your soil. So nematodes, I'm gonna try that again this year. I just hadn't got it, but it's really great. A lot of people swear by it, and like I said, it helped out a lot. I'm gonna do that this year again. In addition to the DE, I do the DE, and actually I got a video coming out. I have a hack for DE because I used to spray it with the cups and it would just get everywhere. But what I did now is I have a balloon inflator that you put your balloons and you pump it up, and I put the DE in the balloon inflator and pump it up, and then it just makes a perfect, almost like a crop duster. Yeah, the idea just came to me, but I picked it up from the dollar store and put a little bit of DE at the bottom of it, pump it up, and just hit it, and it's like a crop duster.
That's neat. I need something like that. I noticed I was getting a bunch of those black, I'm going to call them caterpillars. I'm not really sure. Black worms. And I was getting a bunch of black worms on my sunflowers back there. The ones that are down, they're gone. They're 75% gone now. But anyway, on the sunflowers was those black caterpillars. I'm like, oh man, I don't mind if you eat the sunflowers, but I don't want you to eat the stuff underneath. So I started looking on the internet, and so I got a spray bottle with water and put some vinegar in there, and I sprayed the sunflower leaves with that vinegar water, and I actually put a little sage in there too because it said something about sage. And then I wasn't sure if that was going to get rid of it, so then I went and applied some diatomaceous earth now too. And so I don't know which one was the successful one, the vinegar water or the DE, but one of those two worked.
The vinegar water was sage. Okay, I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah, it worked. It worked for me. And then they moved over to another section of sunflower, and I did the same thing to that. Now they're gone from that section, so I don't know which one's doing it, but I'm just doing it together because I don't know which one was the successful thing. But anyway, I read about the vinegar water. I think they're eating the leaves, and when they taste the vinegar, they don't like it, so they move on.
Now, are the black caterpillars the bad ones, or? I know they say some caterpillars are actually beneficial. I don't, but I just kind of treat them all the same.
I'm not sure. 1 year, maybe 2 years ago, my squash got attacked by something.
Squash vine borers.
And everybody was telling me caterpillars. Well, now after watching Nicole Smith gardening, I'm convinced it was the vine borers.
Yes, well, the vine borers are actually, the vine borers are like baby caterpillars. So the moths get in there, they lay their eggs, they hatch, and the little larva gets inside the stem and starts eating up the stem. Mm-hmm. So it's basically before it becomes a caterpillar, it's the vine borer, and it eats it up. And then once it gets nice and healthy, then it becomes a caterpillar. Then it goes and become a moth.
Yeah. So now this year, I'm convinced that was vine borers. So I don't know why I turned around and planted my squash in that same place, but I told myself I'm going to make a note. And next year, I'm going to plant the squash in the other long raised bed and plant something else there. But also, I don't know. I kind of thought about after the year is over, I might actually get some boiling water and just pour it over that section. Because if there was any of those little baby whatever, wouldn't that kill it?
Yeah, it would kill it. But the problem is with those squash vine borers. So they lay the babies like in the spring, but eventually they grow up and become moths. So you would kill it, anything that's left. But by the time you get to it, they probably already have grown up and become, full-grown moths. Unless there's some grub worms in there, you can kill, stuff like that.
At the end of the year, wouldn't they be the little babies up under the soil in your ground? Like we're talking, you're done for the season. It's like October. Could you then pour it over to prepare it for next year? I wonder. Like, how can you kill what's in there from the end of this year so that you don't have a problem next year? I'm wondering.
That's a good question because I don't know how long it takes them to go to the next stage. So that's actually a very good question.
But I'm going to move my squash. Is one thing I'm going to do. And another thing is I was worried I was going to get them again after I watched Nicole Smith gardening. So what I did was, because I love my zucchini, I actually have a whole bed of zucchini. That's how much I love it. So what I did was, my cat's trying to scratch. No, Curly Steve, stop. Okay. So I planted my zucchini in 5 other different places. To throw them off. So like if they attack this bed again, and I've been watching real close, but if they attack this bed again, I'm not going to be completely out of zucchini. So
the other thing is, and I got a friend, he should be on here, Urban Gardner Gray. He actually did companion planting this year. He planted basil and something else. And the nasturtium is good, I heard, and marigolds are good.
I got marigolds.
Plant the marigolds and then nasturtiums and then basil or even sage and plant that like right next to it.
I just learned about the basil with squash this year.
Yes.
So what I did this year was I know you're supposed to plant marigolds with squash. So instead of planting a bunch, I actually got my marigolds ready so that they would be up before I put the squash in the ground.
See, that's actually pretty smart.
And I kind of took, and I planted them like one and then here, I kind of spread it out throughout the garden. And then I had some more growing in a pot. When they got bigger, I transplanted them, and they're actually basically underneath the zucchini plants all throughout the whole. I mean, there's some little spots where something's biting, but so far they're okay, but you never know. It was really the end of the season when that happened. So it wasn't too bad because, at that point, you're kind of done. You're kind of done. You're kind of done with that flavor. You're like, okay, I've had enough zucchini now. I'm done.
Now, I do know some people, they actually treat their squash and zucchini as just a fall crop. So they don't plant it until maybe August, September, and by then the moths are through laying eggs and the larvae are already hatched and they're already caterpillars and they're already through their stages, and so they plant it then. And a lot of people say that they don't have a problem because, of course, here in Texas, we don't really get a true winter until like January, February. So if you plant yours like in August, you might have, I haven't tried that this year. I'm going to try it. But I know some people who have tried planting it later, and they say they actually have good success.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I have the 5 kind of hidden throughout the garden, throughout the yard in different places. Like I cut one in each one of my planters. I put one with the tomatoes. I put one over in another area. So I was just trying to throw them off, and I put one in another container. And I'm like, well, when those are later, well, you can also see it kind of like succession planting. Like when the other ones are dying, I'll have some that are newer plants that'll still be going. So if I had another area where something was already dying, I could put some more there, but I don't really have anything other than the dill is already starting to seed. Now that I've harvested it, it's like, okay, I'm done with the seed. I'm like,
Yeah, my dill didn't really do much. It just kind of sprouted a little bit, and then it didn't really get big. I think it may be too hot for that dill.
Did you put it in the ground or did you put it in a container?
I actually bought it from Atwoods. It was on sale like $1 or something. So I bought it and I put it directly in the ground because I wanted to companion plant. And I put the dill next to the cabbage with some nasturtiums. Yeah.
That's what I did. I put my dill. The first year I did dill, I did it in a pot. I had no success. This year, I put my dill in a raised bed, and it did great there in the ground. So It was just a raised bed that I had been composting.
Okay.
So it did really well, but I don't want to mess it up because the dill is going to seed, and I kind of want to just let it dry there so I can harvest the seed. Because I actually don't have any seed anymore. So I thought, well, I'm going to try to put all my herbs together for next year. I haven't ever done that. I've always had them everywhere.
Yeah, so that's what I did that this year. The flower bed in the front, I went ahead and pulled up a lot of that stuff, that ornamental stuff, and I pretty much the front yard previously was a flower bed, is now a kitchen garden. So I got apple mint, chocolate mint, um, spearmint. I just planted some lemon mint. I got stevia, pineapple sage, some echinacea. So all of my herbs, cilantro. Well, not all of my herbs, but most of my herbs for my
How's
tea
your
stuff.
stevia doing?
Stevia is actually doing great,
Because I've heard stevia is hard to grow. I tried that once.
and it's actually growing better. I picked up a honeydew melon sage and a lemon basil, and my stevia is doing better than both my basils.
Hmm. I have some basil up with the tomatoes because I heard that was
Yes.
the companion plant with tomatoes. So I have some like in between. Just like I do my zucchini with the marigolds, I do my tomatoes with the basil, and I learned that probably 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I
I'm a
don't
good.
even actually eat basil.
I like making it in teas. I do like the lemon basil. I got a lemon basil, a sweet basil, a purple basil. And then like when I do pho soup, Vietnamese soup, I like they always give you a little basil mixing with the soup, and it's good. It's more like a garnish. But what I want to do is actually take all the herbs and dry them up, make my own seasoning salt.
Yeah, I dried my dill and made my own ranch dressing.
Oh, that sounds good.
My goal is by the end of the year to fill up that half-gallon mason jar full of the ranch, but that probably won't even last that long. But anyway, it's great for dips and stuff. Well, when I did it, I used the store-bought parsley, but my goal this week is to harvest my parsley because it's starting to look like it needs to be harvested. And if I'll hurry up and harvest it, it might grow out again, possibly. So I want to try to get that done. That's my goal for this week.
Oh,
Harvest.
fermented garlic, tomato, basil. That sounds good.
Yeah, I think if I would try the basil in the right thing, there's this really cool tomato pie recipe that had basil. And so I want to try
Oh,
that. If I can get some pretty good sized tomatoes, I'm going to try that recipe. It's like a tomato pie and you put fresh basil in it. It looks like it would be really good. I don't know.
yeah. I'm just looking at milk and honey heritage. That sounded good. What they just said. That fermented
Yeah,
garlic, basil.
minted garlic, tomatoes, basil. Hmm. I did one year sun dried tomatoes in the dehydrator. That was pretty good.
Thai basil. That's the other one. Thai basil is the other one I like. Is Thai basil.
Thai basil. I haven't tried that. I have a Genevieve basil and an Italian basil that somebody sent me.
Yeah, they're usually when I get the Vietnamese soup, the pho soup, they always have the Thai basil in there, and it gives it a good little garnish.
I want to try.
Basil, water,
I want
drink.
purple basil.
A purple basil, yes.
Well, I want a purple basil.
Those are pretty good. I actually just picked up one this year. I'm gonna try to plant some more because it's not looking very good. I
Does
guess
it taste good, or does the purple part change the taste, or does it just taste
I don't think it changes the taste much. I think it just looks different, but
just
I don't
looks
think it changed the flavor. I think it's a little more bolder. But I usually crumble it all up and make herbal teas out of it. So
yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know. I really know much different. Now, I do know the lemon basil has a different texture or taste, and the sweet basil has a different taste. And then what was the other one? Oh, I picked up a pineapple sage and a honeydew melon sage.
Hmm. Haven't heard of those. This was my second year on Sage, and this year it actually went to seed. And I was like, I had no idea it was so pretty when it was going to seed.
Yeah, the
Next
little
year,
red
I'm going to
flower.
plant it in some other places. I'm like, that's pretty. That's really pretty. Just like amaranth. I have no idea what you're supposed to do with amaranth,
So did
but
you plant amaranth?
I did. I got some in a seed swap, and it's pretty. I don't know what you're supposed to do with it, but it's pretty.
I think you're supposed to the part of the inside of the flower. I think it's supposed to be like they call it a pseudo cereal. It's kind of like a grain,
Right?
but not like a grain. It's kind of like a grain second cousin that wants to hang around. but you let him hang around even though he's not really related to you. And so it's supposed to be like that, but you're supposed to you be able to harvest it and make like almost like a quinoa maybe, or maybe like it's like an ancient grain.
I may not even use it. I might just let it just sit there and look pretty. I
just planted it because I thought it was pretty.
I don't know what to do with it, but it's pretty. I have no idea.
Hey.
Sometimes I'll try things just to try them, just to see if I can get it to grow. I'm actually on my 3rd year with loofah.
So is that an actual sponge? I heard people growing loofah. Is that like a sponge?
Sponge, yeah. Have you ever tried it?
I can't say that I've tried it in real loofah. I mean, I've tried like the loofahs at Walmart. I don't think those are real organic loofahs, though.
They might be, because they look a lot like what my friends are pulling out of their garden. The first 2 years, I got a loofah that was tiny. The first year, the trellis went down. So that was the end of them, and I got just a couple little ones. Last year, the hail hit and the fire ants attacked it, so that was the end of the 2nd year. So now I'm on my 3rd year. So this year I decided to grow them in 18-gallon totes up onto a trellis. That way I don't have to worry about too much wood. So I put 3 in each, but I only put it in this half by the trellis. And they're looking pretty good so far. And then right over there with that, I have the pickling cucumber.
So is that like the thing that you use to like scrub your feet and stuff, the loofahs?
Yeah, scrub your feet. Yep. You could use it for body scrub. People say you eat it. I don't plan on eating it.
Really?
It's another thing I just want to grow. But I am going to actually, if I get it, I'm going to give some to my family, because my sister is like, oh, that's really a thing? You can really do that? I'm like, yeah. And I sent her a picture of what it looked like with the hull on, and then what it looked like afterwards, so she could see, because she was like, that's really, because she's not a gardener. She doesn't know. Hello, Chris.
Hey, Christmas place.
So you said an hour. We're almost at an hour.
Yeah, appreciate everybody for stopping by and hanging out with us. Make sure you guys all hit that like and subscribe button and hit the bell.
Yes, definitely. So do you have any questions for me? Anything you want to ask?
See. Do I have any questions for you? So do you have like a full-blown homestead, or are you just doing a food forest?
It's more just like a backyard garden. They kind of put me in the homestead category, but I really just live in a small city, like 5,000 or less people, okay. 5,000. And I have neighbors on both sides. One side has a creek and then a neighbor. The other side, the neighbor's like right there. So my very first year when I entered the gardening collaboration Shed Wars, I had hubby put a fence around the whole entire yard, because there were dogs that would just walk up, and I was like, I cannot be planting stuff in the yard and dogs be digging up what I'm growing.
Oh, wow.
He put up a 6-foot tall fence. And so now I have a nice protection around everything. I mean, people would literally walk up to me when I was in the backyard. I'm like, no, gardening's supposed to be peaceful. I don't worry about strange people walking up to me while I'm out there in the garden. I want to relax and enjoy it, not worried about weirdos walking up to me.
In your own world.
Yeah, in my own little world. Exactly. Listening to my music or listening to people's videos, which is what I usually do when I'm out there gardening. Of course, it's about to be too hot to do any gardening outside.
Yeah, I know.
I have to run out, maintain something, and run back in and cool off, because it is hot.
That's a good deal, Urban Garden of Gray. $1.98 for seedlings.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if anybody have noticed, but to me, it seems like they've capitalized, like as more people are starting to get in the garden, it seems like the big companies and the big box stores are capitalizing on that, because they're selling any and everything at ridiculous prices.
Yeah, I noticed their prices. I noticed you went and got a bunch of starts, and I wanted to get more, but I'm at home. I don't work. Hubby works, and I stay home, so I have a limited budget. So I got 3 tomato plants, plus I planted some from seed. And then I got 2 pepper plants and 1 flower that I wanted. Everything else I've grown from seed.
Yeah. I tried to grow from seed this year. This is my first year trying to grow from seedlings. And it was about 50% success rate. And so I ended up Atwoods had such a great sale going on, man.
Well, I saw you with buying all those. I was jelly. I was like, I wish I was there buying some stuff. I want to buy.
It was 99 cents. I was like, oh, I have to get these, man. 99 cents a seedling.
Well, are you subscribed to Indiana Backyard Gardener?
I believe I am.
Okay, she did this awesome seed swap, and what it was is you send in 3 different kinds of seed, 10 seeds each, and like 3 or 4 stamps, and you enter a seed swap. That's all you have to. You could enter with 30 seeds and a few stamps. Well, I did that this year, and I had a wish list of 10 items. I got 9 out of 10 items on my wish list.
Oh, nice.
And I got 32 different kinds of seed. It was probably like 12 kinds of tomato, 2 kinds of parsley, 3 kinds of squash, 10 kinds of flowers. Tons of seed. It was crazy. But anyway, I tried to plan out as much of it as I could. But you should definitely join that. That'd be a great way to get your.
Okay, and would they do it every fall season?
Going to do it next year. I think she does it like. I think she started in maybe like March.
Okay, I'm about to put the bell. I need to put the bell on her subscription so I can get.
Yes, I definitely recommend joining that because. But I sent in 6 kinds of seed. I sent in 6 instead of 3 because I wanted to give her more so everybody would get more. Hello, Alfonso. So yeah, definitely join that next year. I got elderberry, but I didn't manage to get it up. But I tried. But I should have watched videos before because it was one of those cold stratifying kind of things.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I got cherries and ground cherries
and lavender. I didn't get my lavender up either, but I did get my ground cherries up. I'm on year 2. I got my ground cherries up finally.
That's good. I did not have success with the ground cherries.
Keep trying. Try again. Hopefully I'll be able to tell you what they taste like. People keep asking me, I don't know. When I get them up, I'll try them on a video and I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see what they taste like.
But I grew mine in ground in a raised bed. If that helps at all. But other than that, just composted the way I compost everything. So I'll let you go because it's at an hour and I told you an hour. So
yeah, I got it.
For coming up.
Go to sleep.
Go to sleep. Oh yeah, that's right. Yes. Yeah, I had worked overnight before. Back in 2000 something, I worked at Walmart as a grocery stalker type person. I worked the 97 wall with the lunch meat and the bacon. I was a stalker there, and I worked overnight for a little while, so I know what that's like. It's kind of rough.
Yeah, appreciate everybody for coming out.
It's kind of rough, huh?
I appreciate everybody for coming out, stopping by. I appreciate you for having me.
Thank you.
All right, you have a good one.
Bye, Dwayne. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to him talk about gardening. Interesting. So we live pretty close to each other, actually. And I asked him to come up, and this is the time he chose. So this is why I did today's live instead of doing it on Sundays like I normally do. I did it to accommodate for, the time that he was available. So let's see. I've got, there's an herb for that. I'm going to try to pull up these channels real quick. There's an herb. Oops. I want to pull up his couple of friends that came up here. I want to pull you guys up. Okay, here we go. I found you. I'm going to screenshot that, and then urban gardening with Gary. Okay. I'm trying to pull up you guys so I can, I don't want to leave before I get hooked up with you guys. Urban gardening with Gary. Yeah, we all have our own stories with the gardening. I'm having a little bit of trouble finding you urban gardening with Gary. No, it's with Gray. That's the problem. I did Gary instead of Gray. Urban. Okay. That could be the problem. I'm pulling up the wrong thing. There we go. Found you. All right. Did a little screenshot and I'll go and find you guys and get hooked up. Very cool. Thank you so much, Dwayne, for coming on. And thanks to you guys for coming up and hanging out. If you're interested in doing an interview on Sundays, I do them at 4 p.m. Central Time. If you're interested in doing that, please send me an email at gailsouthernliving@yahoo.com. I didn't do a live yesterday because number one, I wasn't feeling too well. And number two, I had a live set up for today. So I actually changed that live to next Sunday. So that's why I didn't end up doing a live, because I had him coming up for today. And I meant to go and reschedule that or delete that, and I forgot. All right. Thank you guys for coming up. Bye, everybody.